quickly call this meeting to order. This is a work session on the Chester Creek improvements at Muldoon Road. Let's do a quick roll call, starting with you, Mr. Starr.
Bill Starr.
Patrick Flynn.
Dick Trainey.
Tommy Green Jackson.
Bernie Hall.
Pete Peterson. Jeff Stamp.
Bill Evans.
Amy DeBach.
And
Jerry Hansen.
Russ Oswald. Dan Billman.
welcome, gentlemen. Mr. Anderson, you want to take it away?
Yeah, we can get started here. As you recall, we requested to have a work session on this. What we brought to the Assembly was a request to amend the contract to HDR to do some additional work on this project so we can combine it with the two. Originally wasn't together but because of permitting agencies and stuff. We couldn't do it at the time of the change in people, and now we'll go into that a little further. So I'm going to turn it over to Russ Oswald. He's the project manager for us, and then Dan Billman is our consultant with HDR to discuss both issues there.
Okay.
My plan here is just give a 5-minute historic background of how we got here, why we're here, how we got here, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dan because he has a little bit of the longer-term history of this creek and what's proposed to cross on the west side.
And just before we get started, I want to recognize Mrs. Johnson who's joining us.
Maybe I should pull these back so you can see the blocks.
He's back.
See them. Go ahead.
Can everyone in the audience still see those okay? First of all, we're working on Chester Creek, and this is the area of the old Alaska greenhouse property for people who have been here for a long time. Muldoon, DeBar Road, and Chester Creek flowed through the actual greenhouses themselves for years, and through the pipe we have fairly steep, approximately 4% pipes that are going underneath Muldoon Road and down through the old trailer park. And our proposal a number of years ago started discussions with moving the creek, about the possibility of moving the creek to help with creek health, provide a better fish passage. Right now at 4%, we can't get salmon fry. They'll go down it. They won't. Salmon fry will not go up it. So we do have salmon that go up through there, but then they'll spawn. The fry will come down, and they're stuck down here in the old habitat. So the discussion was, what can we do to improve the health of the creek, the fish passage for the creek, and we started looking at that back in the late 90s, 2000 time frame that Dan started discussions, and he'll speak more to that later. We are proposing rerouting the creek from what you see going through and across Muldoon Road and through the property to go across the existing parcel that's across the street that the city acquired from the old Alaska greenhouse property. The greenhouses are gone now, and go across Muldoon and tie into an area across Muldoon where work was done on Chester Creek back in the 5-10 years ago, approximately, to upgrade it, and we'll connect to that section. Originally, when this was envisioned, there was talk, and the design did focus on piping a portion of what's called the north branch of Chester Creek and removing the ditch portion along Muldoon Road as it exists today, that parallels Muldoon Road. As part of this relocation, we couldn't get approval from a couple of the permitting agencies, so we just decided to keep moving forward and just get the crossing and make a connection down here. Now, we were asked, as we progressed through with this design, we were asked to check again with the permitting agencies, and found that a number of the people had changed, and they were more than receptive. They were actually recommending piping that portion and creating a area where we can take out sediment and clean up that portion of the creek. So we started looking, having HDR as part of their design, look into that a little bit more. So I'll let Dan speak to what actually we're proposing to improve here at this point, above and beyond what we've already been approved to do on that east side.
Thank you. I'm going to move this one here. Move this over just a bit so the public can see too. If you don't have a copy there on the desk, on the entrance is our 8 points we put together that I'll cover that correspond to these 8 numbers in here. So the impetus for this started discussions in 1999 when I actually was hired by the Corps of Engineers Civil Works branch, not the regulatory side, to look at improvements along the entire creek. And when we got up here, these culverts have been a real problem for fish passage. They're constrained in their place by some utilities, and they're very, very steep. And they're also somewhat undersized. Started looking at how to improve the creek through this area, and the recommendation in that 2000 report was to move this crossing south. That went to EPA, picked the ball up, and had us do some more work, which actually came up with the design moving south, but the greenhouses were gone. And then in 2005, some money came from the federal government to the city salmon restoration funds, where actually the greenhouses were gone and this moved even further south, trying to address the issues that are here that I'll cover. I'm sorry about craning your neck. So first off, like I mentioned, is this culvert is extremely steep and from a fish habitat, and we're trying to get the creeks to be more fish friendly in the city. It needs to be replaced for fish passage. And it's even progressed further that debris is accumulated in the end, that it's in this end, because of the steepness and because of the way it's built, that it's even almost blocked off now. And some major maintenance has to be done because of rocks falling in front of it and debris collecting in it. There's no way to maintain it. So in this, this North Fork, which is really the storm drain for northern Muldoon Road coming down, plus the North Fork with enters about 10th Avenue that comes in, discharges here, and it carries a lot of, road runoff during high precipitation. The only small and very undersized and not working water quality control structure sits right here, basically in the intersection, and so Jerry's crews cannot maintain it. So it doesn't get maintained, so all it does is collect garbage, and then when you get a big flow, it spits it out into the creek. So that needs to be addressed. The other southern portion of Muldoon Road, which drains down here, doesn't have any water quality treatment at all. That needs to be dealt with. Make sure I get these right. Oh yeah, this channel is deep, is on the upper picture. You can see that's taken at the bottom. It's basically just a notch with a creek and with very little habitat on the side. So, and it sits right here next to the creek, next to the road, which is something we'd like to do. And it's just filled with debris right now, hard to maintain. Because the creek is right at the intersection, the plows plow all the road dirt and salt, whatever's put on this intersection, into the creek, and that's really not good for creek health. And that's the impetus for one of the reasons for moving it south away from the intersection. So you try to get creeks away from intersections when because of the problems that happen there. This bus stop that's in the current situation is far from the intersection, and because the ideal crossing for the creek is that the bus stop will be able to move it. Being down here just is a safety problem, because people using a bus often try to cross directly across Muldoon and not use the intersection where there are crosswalks. So there's the benefit. We're going to take this apart. We can put it together correctly. The current project down here, the lower one that reconstructed in the new channel, has brought bike trail and pedestrian routes up next to the creek that just dead end here. And so this project will put those corridors in and get permits in place to put the crossings in. And then the future, this is like do it now while we have an opportunity, because the future development in these lots, which are not developed now, are going to begin restricting the access to get in here and work and do the construction you need to fix it up. So it's a good time. Strike while the iron's hot. And also, what you end up with in the end is an more aesthetic situation that we hope that when this side develops, that it's reflected in the development. So this graphic here kind of takes the one of what's there and turns it into what will happen. the addressing the culverts is moving a larger culvert here, more in line with what project management and engineering has been building on Little Camel Creek, where we've built 5 new culverts in the last about 6 years that are big boxes, and the creek actually meanders through it, gets rid of the flood hazards, doesn't have the debris collection problems. It's just a natural channel through it. So that's what's happening on this, down here with this move south. And it lines up with the creek heading out through the old Alaska Village property. And it makes the channel as long as possible. Because of the tremendous drop in this culvert, you have to make up that someplace. And so by moving the channel across and lengthening it out, it moves it away from the road and puts it in a floodplain, as well as brings it across here at far away from the intersection and perpendicular. What we've done is that now that this only contains that flow of the North Fork and the storm drainage, this pipe system has water quality treatment structures. This 2 down here, although it's blue, will be built more as a marsh to collect sediment, have a way to maintenance and dredge that out occasionally, but still not block the fish passage. It actually goes through this culvert. This connects to the creek that goes up behind Muldoon Elementary, and there's fish in there, and they actually do move through here. So you have the 2 constraints. And there's a way to collect debris in here so that is caught, and so it can, and has maintenance access for street maintenance crews. We add treatment for the south storm drain off of the Muldoon Road, so it picks up that problem, takes care of that. We get rid of the debris being plowed into it by moving the creek down here and moving it away from the road so it doesn't get direct debris plowed into it off of the road. The bus stop is moved north next to the intersection where it should be, so it gives the bus riders a better experience, and there's some improvements in that to make it larger. We have these corridors in place, as I mentioned, as well as a spot already permitted, so the bridge can be put in by private development as these lots develop, as has been done downstream. And so with this and this plan, then the private development can move forward with this done, and then also incorporating it in. So that's what we planned for this side, in creating more of a continuous improvement from here, which was all the way through the Alaska Village Trailer Court, Begich, New Begich Middle School, all the way up through the greenhouse area. So that's what I have. Are there any questions about what technically we're going to do and where it is?
Training.
This is Pete.
Can I step over here because that's shining in my eyes? I'm sorry.
The steep culverts you're going to replace.
Yes.
Are you going to shut that down? Are you going to tear it out?
Actually, what will happen to it, it's drawn up here in this orange. There's a storm drain that works from this east side. We'll be putting a new pipe through it, a smaller pipe that just handles the storm drainage. There are 2 culverts now. One will be abandoned, one will be reused for storm drainage.
Diameter is going to be, do you know?
This, I think it's less than 2 feet as a pipe.
I think it's an 18-inch pipe.
18
that we're putting
inch?
in.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Could we put crossbars across? I'm just don't want any kids crawling through.
No, these will be blocked off. The one will be abandoned. We'll probably have sand slurry put in it. The other one has a new pipe connected to new storm drain inlets that'll be placed over here in this right of way. So yeah, this will be unavailable for kids to get in.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Well, without raising a big topic, this has been around the block a few times. The map changes sort of seamlessly to the blue line now that meanders around the commercial property and does it. What construction redirects the creek? There's no diverter valve up there that says that. So
Right here?
is that, yes?
Well, we'll do the construction from about this point. We won't make the connection. We'll do all the channel work over into approximately this area before we open the flow, and then we'll get the stream bed all installed, ready to go, and then we'll take that.
That comment right there, getting the stream bed all installed, is that part of what you're talking about doing as well as the culvert connection, or are you just talking about getting the culvert?
Pardon me, I was talking more about the culvert. Yes, this whole channel would be constructed as one project and constructed in the dry, so it's very efficient to do. And then after that's constructed, stabilized, ready to go, you breach the 2 ends, and then this piece would be buried, filled, because it's no longer needed.
Some of the comments we've had have talked about the parcel as it relates to the northeast community plan
Yeah.
and the park plan and all the other stuff. have you had any conversations where that's embedded in the conversation with potential future parks in the area, and what that meandering would look like, a bridge or?
I can say, well, from the work I've done over all these years, we've done it without regard to property disposition. This is the creek solution. That's a different.
Is the northeast, what you guys are calling it, the northeast neighborhood plan, is that scope going to cover this, Mr. Rios?
Thank you. So what, yes. So what we're really talking about is, and what you all questioned us on was the document that went before you in the last assembly meeting. And that was basically for sole source. And it was a sole source to add on to the contract that we already have in existence to finish the design work here. This has been done, and we're ready to go in, and you already approved last year for us to go ahead and do the construction to actually alter the creek flow. So that is what we're doing this summer. But it makes sense for continuity purposes and everything else, and then actually for efficiency purposes, to go ahead and tie onto the existing design contract this work here. And so that's what our intent is, and that's what's before you at the next assembly meeting. And yes, out for a comment right now is the actual land use document that's part of the Northeast Community Plan, and that's out for comment, and it's also out for Parks and Recs comment and everything else. We are not addressing at this right here the use. All we're doing is just taking care of the function of the stream and eliminating the glaciation problem that we were having here.
Oh, thanks.
What's that creek do above that? Does it come back across
Above this fork or this fork?
that fork?
This
the
one
main
goes
creek?
up through the property, it swings down on the south, on this south border,
Yeah.
then goes straight and enters the military reservation, and then moves up into the military.
Yeah, I thought there was a current lateral, a north-south lateral somewhere around up in there. So it basically comes back, and so it's a complete meander across there.
This is a hill, so the creek
Yeah.
comes in and goes
I got
around
you.
the hill. I have some topography mapping that's from 1961 that was done, and it shows this hill very clearly and how this looped around in here. So, yeah, there's a topographic constraint that it goes around.
Any more questions? Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And there was some contaminated soil found in your greenhouse property last summer, and I'm wondering, are you planning to clean that up before you move the creek, or what's the plan?
Heritage Land Bank has a contract to start cleanup on that, and they should be out of there by the time we're done, by the time we start. They should be well out of there by the time we start.
And have they checked the new route that you're setting up
We
there to
have,
make sure?
we
that-
have soil profiles through here to check for that, and all of them come out clean. And we checked and went up into that area. If you look at their fence, their fencing area stops right where they have the contaminated area fenced on, it stops right at our border. So we have checked that.
And so also when you dig the new channel, I'm wondering is that going to cause problems with additional silt being run into the creek? I mean, when the water first is let loose, so to speak, it's going to continue to dig deeper? I mean, how far down is it before you get to bedrock?
We'll clean up the channel as best we can, but we've got to make it a pretty tight channel because you don't want the water to disappear. And I've seen that happen. I've seen creeks disappear before when you open up the tap. So we got to make it pretty tight. So there will be some, without a doubt, there'll be some sediment that moves through here. We'll try to keep it as clean as we can, but it won't be all. And I think all of the permitting agencies have recognized that going right into it.
To answer the other side of your question, the way that creeks are designed in this is that you figure out, calculate what you need as the bed material so it doesn't move in those floods, so you've stabilized the bed elevation at that point. So that's how this is designed. Urban creeks are different than rural creeks, is that urban creeks have a very set corridor when they're done and they need to stay in that over time. And so a lot of design work is done to be sure of that and still provide all the habitat value. So it won't down cut, it's not going to move side to side when we're done. Similarly as the one behind Russ, the lower one is the same thing. Same idea, it's pretty well stabilized in that position.
Long term, that's kind of our goal, get something similar to it. Yeah.
gentlemen. Appreciate it. We'll wrap up and come back at 12:30.